Dever mahasa a chuirde agus tá míle fáilte romh an seo go dtín eile maxima ag gláis na hOllscoile Chorcaigh. Beidh cúpla focail againn ón Taoiseach ar dús agus an sin ón Uachtarán von der Leyen. We'll have some remarks from the Taoiseach and then from President von der Leyen.
Uachtarán von der Leyen, Ursula, tá fáilte mhórród go héiring agus go cathair áling Chorcaigh. Is priviléid agus onóir mhór de éiring Uachtaránacht chorla an Aontais Eorpaigh a ghlacha den 8 uair im mbliana. As seo go gceann sé bhí beidh éire ag obair in nglú chóir le gach báilstát den Aontas Eorpach, agus míad ag saothú in aondí chun aghaidh a thabhairt ar na dúchláin atá roimh an Aontas Eorpach, agus chun feabhsanna cearta a bhaint amach do Héal or Saránach. I would like to thank you, Ursula, and the College of Commissioners for 2 very constructive days of discussions here. And I hope that you and your Commission will remember with fondness your visit here to the beautiful city of Cork and its historic university. I would like to thank UCC President John O'Halloran and all at UCC for the very warm welcome. Yesterday we had the opportunity to pay a courtesy call on the Lord Mayor of Cork. And we also visited the Tyndall National Institute to see the pioneering work underway across several strategic sectors, including semiconductor fabrication. And we saw at first hand the most advanced European research collaboration in action. The purpose of your visit was, of course, to discuss Ireland's presidency programme and priorities. Our work will be focused on the 3 themes of competitiveness, values and security. We are agreed that there is an urgent need to improve Europe's competitiveness and productivity. In the One Europe, One Market roadmap, we have the plan for how we are going to get there. We will prioritise work on reducing regulatory and administrative burdens, deepening the single market, championing strong trade, accelerating decarbonisation while ensuring affordable energy, and driving the digital and AI transformation. At a time of increased threat and conflict, we need to work harder together to protect our citizens, our democracies and our European way of life. As Presidency, we will work to safeguard the core values on which the European Union is built: freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law and respect for human rights and dignity. I know that strengthening online safety, in particular the safety of children online, is close to your heart. I look forward to the outcome of the work of the special panel on child safety online, which you have convened. The Irish Presidency will work with you on taking this work forward. The people of Ukraine have endured more than 4 years of brutal Russian aggression. They deserve a just and lasting peace. When I met with President Zelensky earlier this week, I reiterated the commitment of the Irish Presidency to stand steadfastly with Ukraine. We will also work to help those countries, including Ukraine, who wish to join the European Union to advance along the path to membership. Ireland has benefited greatly from our membership, and those that are ready to join should be allowed to do so. We will work to strengthen the European Union's role as a principled global actor, including promoting active engagement in support of lasting peace and security in the Middle East. I look forward to the Commission's presentation of options later this month on trade with Israeli settlements. For the European Union to meet the ambitions of its citizens in the years to come, it needs a budget equal to the task. We are committed to doing all we can to reach agreement in the Council by the end of the year on the European Union's next long-term budget. We are both under no illusion as to how much work is required to achieve this, and I look forward to your support and cooperation to achieve our shared goal. Ireland has set an ambitious agenda for our presidency's term in office. Delivering on these objectives will require partnership and close cooperation. I look forward to working closely with President von der Leyen and the College of Commissioners on advancing what I know is a shared agenda. I would like to thank you once again, Ursula, and the entire College of Commissioners for your visit to Cork this week and for the very constructive discussions that we have had.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach, dear Michal, for welcoming us indeed in your native Cork. And thank you very much for the visit over 2 days and the intense talks we had. This was excellent. And thank you very much also for bringing me to the Tyndall National Institute and its semiconductors labs. That was absolutely amazing to see that. For me, it perfectly sets the tone of the Irish presidency. And the research powerhouse that Tyndall is, it's an innovation powerhouse. Europe is bridging a gap we have struggled long with. We have to move from the test to the scale, and that was yesterday also the motto at the visit, that they had said we have all the ingredients that are necessary. We have the talent, we have the innovation, the research and the development, we have the infrastructure, we have the capital, if we get a capital market union. But what we now need is scale, and I think this, as I said, sets the tone for this presidency. This also brings me to our first shared priority, a competitive European economy that is good jobs for Europe. The task ahead is clear. Outside our borders, we must keep moving on diversification. This year has already delivered one trade agreement breakthrough after another, and the Irish presidency will be central to getting deals with India and Mexico operational at record speed, so that Europe can trade more with trusted partners, that is, growing our exports while, very crucially, reducing our dependencies. The more we are diversified, the less we are dependent on a single supplier. Of course, at home we must keep building the industrial capacity we need to create jobs and growth and to better withstand shocks. For this, we have our roadmap, the One Europe, One Market. As you've said, all three institutions have committed to it to deliver till the end of 2027. This roadmap spans over 18 months, so it is about delivery and it is about urgency. We have several key proposals to see through across the clean and digital transition. The list is very long, so I will highlight just a few of them. On the clean energy side, the Commission will table a new energy package in July. It will include a target to boost electrification in Europe and the modernization of our emission trading system, the ETS review, as you know. On the digital side, we have our tech sovereignty package. We need it to strengthen Europe's capacity in tech, from chips to AI, from cloud to language models. It's quite a big menu that we have to work on. Then we have a number of horizontal priorities to make Europe the best place to innovate, to invest and to grow. We must keep working hard on making life easier for business. Our presidency's leadership will be essential to deliver on our simplification agenda. You know the famous omnibuses. 6 have already reached the finish line, but 4 now have to come to the finish line during this presidency. And the same goes for EU Inc. We discussed it, the 28th regime, our single rule book for innovative companies. We should aim for an agreement before the end of this year because entrepreneurs have no time to lose. They are really waiting for this EU Inc. And you've committed to making the Savings and Investment Union a reality. That is very much welcome. We hear it over and over again. Capital market, we need to end the fragmentation of the capital market. Then there is a lot of capital that is available for our startups, and for that we need the Savings and Investment Union. My second point is on security. Security underpins everything we do. As a matter of fact, many of the technologies that power our economy are also critical to our security. Semiconductors are the perfect example, which is why Ireland's contribution here is so important. Security also means taking more responsibility for our own defence. So we welcome your decision to increase defence spending by 55% by 2030. During your presidency, we will continue to advance Europe's defence readiness, that spans till 2030. Given the increasingly threatening landscape, our defence readiness is critical to deter adversaries. This includes building up capabilities through our SAFE programme. SAFE is the €150 billion programme for joint procurement. So far, we have signed in record time loan agreements with 10 member states worth €100 billion, and this enables the member states to undertake the joint defence projects through common procurement. Of course, while stepping up on defence in Europe, we continue to support our friends in Ukraine. Already from the €90 billion Ukraine loan, we have disbursed more than €3 billion in budget support and the first part of the €6 billion for the air defence. And at the same time, we are working with Ukraine to build a more structural defence industrial partnership with Ukraine's defence industry so that we can benefit from their defence industrial innovation and their experience on the battlefield. My third point is the next long-term budget. In June, the Council reached an important agreement on the architecture of the MFF. This is a big step forward. We have now agreed on the architecture. It's set in stone. Now we have to fill the negotiation box. The next level is the right financing, and we should aim for a revised negotiation box for the October European Council, including a shared understanding on how we want to finance the next MFF. This is essential so that the next budget is ready to deliver from the 1st of January 2028. This will, as you said, require a lot of hard work. We know it, and of course we will support you every step of the way. To put the bar even higher, Ireland successfully brokered an MFF agreement in 2013, so we know you can make it, and therefore we count on you. My fourth point is on housing. Europe is facing a housing crisis, a crisis of affordability, access and quality. Our citizens are calling for solutions, and we are responding. Under your presidency, we aim to launch a European Housing Alliance, and we will convene a high-level European Housing Summit. This is one of the defining social challenges of our time, and our people expect us to deliver. My last point is on enlargement. Ukraine and Moldova have opened their first accession cluster. That's a big step forward. Albania and Montenegro continue to progress. I very much welcome your strong support for this, as you've just described, merits-based process. This includes the intention to complete accession negotiations with Montenegro till the end of the year. We have every reason to trust Ireland on this because, as you said, after all, the historic 2004 enlargement was agreed under the Irish presidency. And Ireland's own story reminds us why enlargement is one of Europe's smartest investments. When Ireland joined the European Community in 1973, the GDP per capita was around half of the European average. Today, it is roughly double the European average. So you were catching up, and now you're leading the way. That's amazing. And there's hardly a more convincing argument for enlargement than that. So, dear Michal, thank you again. Ireland has always had a talent for turning ambition into achievement. I'm confident your presidency will do the same for Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ursula.
The national broadcaster here. Taoiseach, in relation to the Aughanish alumina refinery in Limerick, you mentioned yesterday there would be a joint approach between Ireland and the European Commission in terms of an approach to the refinery. Could you perhaps outline what that joint approach might mean and what discussions there have been with the Commission around it? President, in relation to Aughanish alumina in Limerick and potential shipments going going to Russia. What is your view of the Irish stance? And an Irish investigation, we are told, is near completion. When do you expect to see that? Could it be this month? Would you like to see it this month? And briefly as well, reports today of the EU implementing a social media ban for children in September. Could you confirm those reports?
Well, first of all, the context. The sanctions are EU sanctions. Illumina has not been on any sanctions list so far. And what we said yesterday, and what we'll be very consistent on, is we are investigating this issue. And the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment is leading that investigation. And we believe it will complete its work within weeks, as I said yesterday. And at that stage, we will share the findings of that with the Commission. And we'll discuss that with the Commission at that stage. And as I said, next steps happen after that. It didn't form part of the substantive discussions today. We had a very business-like meeting today on the broad range of the Presidency objectives, as has been outlined by the President and I, in terms of the competitiveness agenda, in terms of enlargement, in terms of the budget, and in terms of security and defence. Those took up the substance of our meeting today. We did indicate that there is an investigation underway. We'll complete that, and then we'll see next steps, and we'll share that with the Commission.
Yeah, I can be brief on that one, because indeed we were waiting for the finishing of the investigation, and then we will discuss together the results. It's for Ireland to lead this investigation and to set the time frame. On your social media question, there is an expert group working right now, and they will hand over the result of their discussions to me on the 13th of July. Then we will work with this report. It is a report that will give us, hopefully, a comprehensive concept about social media delay for different age groups. And it is not the question when children or teenagers would have access to social media. I would say it's more the question when social media has access to our children and teenagers. That's what we have to discuss, and that's what we are working on. So we will then come with a legal proposal, but on the 13th of July is the moment where the report will be handed over, and then we will work with this report to have a concept for the whole of the European Union.
Thank you. Next question from Simon.
Thanks a lot. Simon Caro, French daily L'Opinion. My first question is for you, President, and is about the MFF. Last year you said that your proposal was matching EU's ambition. Today some member states, including Germany, are calling for 20% cuts. Would you say that a budget that is 20% lower will still match EU's ambition? And secondly, are you considering putting forward new own resources during the Irish presidency? Is it an option? And one more question, if I may. Thousands, if not millions, of people are stuck in queues at EU airports and ports, apparently because of the entry-exit system. Why is that happening, and what would be the solution? And for you, Taoiseach, on the MFF again, some member states are already saying that it's not an obligation to reach a deal by the end of December. So my question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely is it that there will be a deal by the end of December? Thank you.
So on the MFF, we don't even have a negotiation box with figures. Then the negotiations start. So we will see in the very end where we're going to land. It's too early to give a judgment on singular figures. But your question on new own resources, we have proposed 5 different new own resources, and the Parliament has also proposed 3 other new own resources. What we need is, on average, around about 66 billion per year of new own resources. If these new own resources are not given, there are three options to finance the budget, and I was very clear about that. One is increase national contributions of the member states to fill the gap. The second one, if you do not want to increase the national contributions of the member states and you have no new own resources, you have to cut. If we had to cut to compensate these 66 billion euros per year, this would mean a cut by 40% of the proposal. So this shows how important and crucial the need for new own resources is, and I rely on the Irish presidency to work on that topic. And the entry-exit system, well, it did not change the legal frame about rules of entering and exiting the European Union. It just creates transparency about the rules, abiding to the rules that are set for entering or exiting the European Union. We are working with the member states that the technical problems are being solved, but you're right, there's still quite a lot of work to do to have these technical issues solved together with the member states.
Could I just say that most of the leaders I've met over the last number of months in preparation for the presidency have not indicated to me that they would like us to defer bringing the budget negotiations to a conclusion beyond next December. I think most people believe that it would be preferable and essential that we get it completed, because postponing a decision doesn't change the challenge, it doesn't reduce the challenge. We have people coming from different perspectives, yes, on the budget. But we've been through this before. Back in 2020, we had some fairly exhaustive discussions on this, and we got there in the end, notwithstanding all of the late nights and long days. So my own view is that it's imperative in terms of proper planning, and that the European Union in particular, can have a continuum, but also can plan properly in advance and get all the legislative underpinning of a new budget in place also, which will take a considerable amount of time and effort. Now, in terms of a scale of 1 to 10, so I always like getting 7 or 8 in a test when I was young, but so I'd pluck out that number, 7 or 8,
Thank you, Taoiseach. Next question.
Christina Finn from the Journal.ie. Question for President von der Leyen. The Ireland's Foreign Minister Helen McEntee has said that a European-wide occupied territories bill is very important as the situation in Gaza and the West Bank is not improving. She cited an independent UN report which finds the IDF is intentionally targeting children. This is post-ceasefire. Why are you and the Commission dragging your feet on this issue, and when will we see action on this?
So first of all, perhaps to set the record straight, we are the world's largest provider of assistance to the Palestinian people, the largest. No one does more than us. Since October 23, we have earmarked over 2.7 billion euros in humanitarian aid and budget support. We have organized 85 humanitarian aid bridge flights and delivered more than 5,600 tons of essential supplies. So this, I think, is important to know. No one does more than us. We have the issue and the problem of access. That's point number one. On the West Bank settlers, we also share the analysis that the continued expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank is utterly unacceptable, and the violence used to achieve this expansion is abhorrent. This undermines the future of the two-state solution, which in our view is the only viable solution or path to lasting peace, and the situation is clearly deteriorating. So we have already agreed on sanctions against extremist Israeli settlers and Hamas figures, and the Commission will soon present, as you know, an options paper. We have, this should also be mentioned, 10 months ago, proposed to suspend trade preferences under the EU-Israeli Association Agreement. This is 10 months ago. This would have a significant economic impact, but this proposal remains on the table of the member states to vote with a qualified majority, so the ball is in the court of the member states. It's 10 months ago that we have done this proposal. And last month we agreed on sanctions against extremist Israeli settlers, and many member states have also proposed to sanction Minister Ben-Gvir. There, you might also know, so far no consensus has been reached. So you see, there is activity and a lot of activity going on, but in the Council, right now, no move forward with a solution or an agreement on how to proceed.
Thank you. Question from Thomas.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thomas Kutschka with Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. A question on China, please. After talks with China earlier this week, Trade Commissioner Maros Šefčovič set October as a deadline to achieve what he called tangible results. Now, you certainly have a mandate from the last European Council to toughen your stance, President, and develop new defensive tools against the growing trade imbalances. So my question is, what does China have to expect if it does not change course? And to you, Taoiseach, if I may, you said earlier this year on a visit to China that the EU and China need to engage in dialogue to resolve trade friction. At which point would you say that dialogue alone won't do and that there's a need, in fact, for stronger trade measures? Thank you.
So our general approach is de-risk, not decouple. And this stays true. Indeed, as you just said, last week the Trade Commissioner met with his Chinese counterpart. The first principle agreed in the European Council is we need to have or to continue the dialogue with China. This is part of it, but the dialogue also has to deliver. And in the dialogue we have to be very clear, and that was the case in this meeting, about all the issues that we are criticizing, from the subsidized overcapacity of goods coming to our market to a lack of market access of our companies at the Chinese market, the unfair competition because of the subsidies that we do not want to see anymore on our market, and other elements included. Second, we agreed, and I think it's always very important, we also have to do our homework. This is the whole competitiveness agenda we have been talking about. And we have to diversify our supplies to reduce the dependency on China. Diversify our supplies is one of the main reasons why we have agreed, I think, 4 or 5 major trade agreements since the beginning of this year. Mexico, Mercosur, India, Switzerland, I'm missing one, Australia. So it's an enormous amount of work in order to diversify. As I said, to come back to your question, dialogue is essential, but the dialogue has to deliver. And depending on how the response of the Chinese is in fall, as Maros Šefčovič has described, will then be our potential activity. We are basically prepared for everything, and we have all instruments on the table, and we are thinking about other possibilities if necessary.
Could I just add that I welcome the exchanges between Maros Šefčovič, Commissioner Šefčovič, and his counterpart. That's more or less in line with what I've been saying consistently, that we need dialogue. But of course there has to be results from the dialogue, and trade has to be conducted in a fair basis. And we all have to play by the same rules, and that is not always the case. And there's significant imbalances in the trading relationship, particularly in terms of manufacturing, between Europe and China, and that's just a reality. But I would hope that discussion and dialogue can reach a landing zone between Europe and between China, because in the end of the day there is significant interdependence as well, all across the globe, and that includes China. So everybody needs everybody to some degree, but we have to, in Europe, become more competitive ourselves, become more self-reliant, and strengthen our capacities, particularly in the research and the competitiveness side of industry. The kind of stuff we saw yesterday at the Tyndall Institute, which was part of a European-wide network of research in the semiconductor arena. But you get the sense, and those researchers were very confident about what Europe has. And they believe Europe has in excess quantities, talent, ability, research, know-how, great equipment, and so forth. So it's about Europe harnessing the forces and the positives it has in a more effective way to carry greater heft in the world. But we have to be, ultimately, dialogue is a far better way of resolving these issues than alternative measures. It's a judgment call, obviously, in the end of the day, once that dialogue takes place, as to how effective the dialogue is and the nature of the conclusions that arise from it.
Thank you, Taoiseach. We might take a question in Irish now, President, if you want to make use of your earpiece for interpretation. Agus ceist ó Marion.
Marion O'Flaherty, Nugs, Orty, Ux, Nug, Tiji Cahir, Dúspóra, Híiseach. Mar luig tú in some Candace na téirmí is táchtaí le linn de réifse Uachtaránach de nós Lándálacht. Agus luig an Ara McIntyre Madan Marialler Maritime Security